Sons and daughters, and it goes down. Of course, they multiply, and away you go from there.
You couldn't say she was a clown girl, could you?
She was a lovely lady.
George's dad, Charlie, has been on the road for over 70 years. That's him in the photo next to his father's wagon. It probably seems incomprehensible to his granddaughter-in-law, Shays, and his great-grandchildren that in those days they travelled by horsepower. So how long would it take you to get between shows in those days, I wonder?
Oh, I think 8 mile a day was the limit.
8 mile a day.
The first ride that my dad ever worked on was a ride called the Razzle Dazzle, and it was pushed by hand.
These days, some of the rides weigh over 50 tonnes and are priced accordingly. But how much would this is yours here, Force 10. How much would a ride like this cost?
New today, in excess of $1 million. There'd be very few rides on the showground that you could replace for less than $1 million, and some of them up to $3 and $4 million.
But for the children of the showies, nothing's changed. They're safer at the show than anywhere else.
We can let a young child loose on this showground now, and it can go from here, a 2-year-old, from here to the other side of the showground completely safe, because everybody knows that child. In fact, we put signs on them to say who they are, and with a sign saying, "I am not lost."
Really?
So people don't pick them up and take them to the authorities.
Throw the ball! Oh, beauty! Another one in the middle!
And all the kids know Joey Payne. He's the only one not related to anyone.
They all know me as Uncle Joe with the sore toe.
He never had any children himself, so consequently he's got one of the biggest families in the world.
I left school when I was 13, and I've been in the business since I was 13. I'm 72 now, and I wouldn't want to change it for the world. I always say it's better than getting my 4:45 out of Caboolture every morning.
I'm sure it is. But for the rest of us who might be getting tired of running round in circles, or simply, well, got lost, there's always a quick way out. Show Alley, an endless cavalcade of rides, games and attractions that in many ways form the backbone of any show in Australia. It doesn't matter if you're having a bad hair day, a really bad hair day, or a really, really bad hair day. The idea is just to have fun. Some rides are over 60 years old, others straight off the production line, with most of the recent additions promising to do to my stomach what a spin dryer does to my socks. But from the air, you'll catch a glimpse of what in effect is a small town within a city. It's here you'll find the showmen, men, women and children who spend most of the year on the road.
Number 10 takes the finger of any prize on they stand. Have a try and you can be a winner.
Terry Nylon has 3 games at the Ekka and a home out the back you'd never find on your own.
I'm 48-year-old and I've never missed a Brisbane exhibition. My grandmother used to work Brisbane show many years ago. My mother worked it. Now I'm here.
Guaranteed to win a prize on this one.
Terry's daughter Melissa is also a showy. She has her own game this year, Go Kermit, and her 2 children already look like continuing in the family tradition.
I went to school, I went to grade 12 at school. 2 years of it was boarding school, and I knew what I was going to do, what I was going to be, you know. I grew up doing it, sort of you can't change once you know, it's too good of a life.
To find anyone in the maze behind the rides is an entertaining quest in itself. Ah, there's Doug Roberts, and in here we should find his wife Pat. Yup, there she is, and there's bound to be a pink around somewhere. Ah, yes there is, there's Barbara, toiling away at the fairy floss. For the show, men and women, it really is one giant family.
You've got to be very careful if you're making comments about some people. You want to make sure they're not a cousin or a relative of some type.
I'd say 80% that's at this show would be related to me somewhere along the line.
And like an energetic souffle, the show family continues to expand from within, with very few crumbs falling off en route. Doug and Pat's children are all in the show.
You've got 8 different ways to win the prizes here today.
This is son John, and just next door, daughter Marika. Her de facto Stephen used to work for her other sister's father-in-law, while another sister, Leonie, here she is busily counting a day's take with her daughter Lindsay, is married to Lou Osborne. Here he is calling the monkey race, who also just happens to be president of the Showman's Guild. I hope you got all that.
Big's got it right there in the centre. Big.
We were encouraging our children to be independent early. They've done their schooling, they've done their education, they come into this business, and in their business of about 50 shows a year, they're all independent business people in their own right.
Let them on the bottom, over they go. Hey, have a look at him. Hey, you beauty.
Probably the only showman not to have any direct descendants on the ground is 73-year-old Joey Payne. He started work at Luna Park when he was 13 and did the Brisbane Cairn show run by train in the 40s.
The trains we had, their priorities was 0-0, so if an old goods train come along, we had to get off the rails and let it go past. In the old days, chocolates was the main prize. And later on the statues come out, the plaster ornaments, and they were heavy, you know, they were packed in tea cases and get a double hernia trying to lift them. And then, but now the soft toys, they've been going now for about 21 years.
The show must go on, but not many showies move on, so breaking into the show business isn't easy. Damien, alias Freddy Krueger, has come back 3 years in a row. And he is happy.
Yeah, a lot of frights, a lot of scared people, always making kids cry. It's good fun.
And Derek joined the show 10 years ago. He's been a duck, a bear, and now rides a very heavy dinosaur with bad breath called Rocco.
Roughly about 110 kilos. It's like a sauna on the inside. It's full of latex, and you just basically move around.
But
there's no business like show business.
And you wouldn't change it for a pot of gold.
Good point. Mind you, I reckon I'd give a pot of gold to get off the Scorpion. I think the guy said it did 150 kilometres an hour, and I believe him. Oh, thank goodness. Now, if I can just remove my head from my stomach and my stomach from my feet, I should be able to find the gents. Enjoy the show.
Well, country Australia is rich in people who achieve their goals against all the odds. So is our next story. It's about show people, that unsung lot who travel the length and breadth of Australia to run the rides, games and tent entertainment at agricultural shows and rodeos. They've been part of Australian folklore for more than 100 years, but at great personal cost. Not because they have no permanent home and are forced to live in caravans, that's part of the life they love. The real hardship is that for generations, show people have been denied what most other Australians take for granted: access to an education. For many, that's resulted in a lifelong battle with illiteracy and with it often ridicule and discrimination. But now at last they have something that promises to change their lives. And as Alan Sunderland reports, the show kids are making up for lost time.
Ring, 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 wiggle, 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 wiggle.
From the inside, it's just a normal classroom. But this is not an ordinary classroom and no ordinary school. The classroom is on the back of a truck and the school is the Queensland School for Travelling Show Children. These kids are the sons and daughters of families who spend their whole lives moving from town to town, following the circuit of country shows. This is home for the travelling show families, caravans and mobile homes amid the noise and bustle of the show. And now, for the first time, there's a school travelling with them wherever they go.
Oh, it's heaps mad. I mean, I like it heaps. It's better than going to the normal school.
They've got a fridge, a photocopy, about 6 computers in there. I think it's great.
This for us is a dream come true. It's a miracle.
Hands up, Zach.
This is the biggest change for the travelling show community in a century.
That's a tricky word. It sounds like it should be A-G-E-N, but it's A-I. We're trying to get them used to the idea that school's not as scary as it may have been in the past, because we are trying to understand their way, which hasn't always happened in the past, trying to understand the way of the children.
These children bring with them a legacy of living on the margins of society. For over 100 years, show families have been neglected, ignored, forgotten.
This is a collection I've collected over the last 35 years, all the old sideshow memorability. There's quite a bit here to have a look around at.
That's amazing. Richard Miller is a fifth-generation showman. He's also a bit of a hoarder. In a shed on the border of New South Wales and Victoria, he's stored away a priceless record of life on the road.
I've got some old banners and some old sideshow equipment going back before the war.
Yep.
In the old horse and cart days. I've got a few old things we've got to restore. I've got them hidden away at the moment.
The ones that aren't hidden away recall a time when Sideshow Alley was alive with exotic tent shows, novelty acts and exhibits, the weird and the wonderful.
Many times I used to sneak away when I was working. I'd go and watch one of the tent shows. They were illusions, but a very, very good act. Nobody could ever find out how Tom Castles used to do them. My wife worked with him for many years. She used to do the head on the sword act.
Like so many showmen, Richard Miller was born travelling.
Nearly all showmen who are still in the business today are descendants, and they go back, well back, probably just after the war, or maybe about the same time as us. I'm actually the fifth generation in the business. My great-grandparents were showmen, my grandparents, my mother and father, myself, my sons and daughters, and I've got 7 grandchildren. 8th one coming along in a couple of months.
As a child, Richard remembers arriving in towns after days on the road and then being dropped off at the nearest local school in the hope of learning something.
I never had much chance to go to school because we had old slow trucks and we had big mileage to do, and by the time we got to the next town, half the week would be gone and we'd miss 2 or 3 days every week.
On the days he made it to school, it was even worse. The showies, as they were called, were treated with suspicion or even hostility by the local children.
It was embarrassing, but we had our own little clique of children, and we'd go out at lunchtime, we'd talk to each other. We didn't really get involved much with the local community of kids. But it was embarrassing, I've got to admit that, yeah.
Richard Miller eventually travelled to shows with a family of his own, but the problems of educating kids on the road remained.
I really feel sorry even for my sons and daughters, because they went through the predicament where they missed 2 or 3 days a week for many years when they should have been in the schoolroom, but we couldn't afford to put them into a, to leave them anywhere or put them with any friends. We wanted to keep our kids with us.
And that was the dilemma. Take the children on the road with you and watch their education suffer, or leave them with friends and relatives and split up the family. Either way, they lose. Emily Pickett had 6 children and chose to take them with her, dropping them off at schools in each town.
My children attended 32 schools in the 1 year.
She thought they had at least learnt basic reading and writing, until she took her 12-year-old son to a cafe one night as a treat.
He asked me what there was on the menu, and I said, "Don't be silly, read it." And he started Hawaiian hamburger, and this was the first time that I realised that he had not progressed any further. I packed the children up, put them in the car, went home and cried my eyes out. 3 days later we had him into St John's Hostel in Forbes.
Melva Shane, from another long-time show family, tried another method, leaving her young children at home with relatives to be educated. She says now it nearly broke her heart.
Very, very tough, very tough. We used to drive all night and all day to get back to them when we'd finished a run. We wouldn't stop to get home before they went to school that morning.
But unbeknown to her, Melva Shane's experience had planted a seed that would one day bear fruit. Melva's daughter, Julie Shane, hated being left behind and grew up determined to find a better way.
She missed her mother and daddy so much that she didn't want that to happen. It broke the family unit up. And she thought there's got to be something that we can do that this doesn't happen.
Julie Shane joined a group of other determined mothers in the show community in lobbying for a travelling school.
Being 3 generations in the business and seeing families break up and different things happen, and knowing what I experienced as a child growing up, I just wanted to make I wanted to make a difference.
What they needed next was someone in the education system who knew how to deal with the bureaucracy and get things done.
Hello. Kathy Fullerton. Kathy, pleased to meet you.
Pleased to meet you.
Kathy Fullerton was a teacher working in distance education when she was approached by Julie and other parents.
Michael Waddington is here.
I was going to lunch and I opened the door of that building and opened it out wide to 3 ladies coming up the stairs, and at the same time the new principal of the school said, "Oh, Kath, just the lady I need, come in here." And that's how we met.
Exactly right.
What followed was literally years of researching and lobbying to get funding and political support for a travelling show school. Once the federal and Queensland governments agreed to fund the project, the design phase began. A mobile classroom this ambitious had never been built anywhere in the world.
You still need, the teacher needs to be able to move up and down the classroom.
And this is our fantastic Magic Eye door.
Yes. That's right. And again, this will be all hydraulically operated.
Apart from the classroom, they needed special caravans for the teachers to live in, computers, high-tech hydraulics and the latest communication software.
I can see the satellite dish there already.
The
I
satellite
can see
dish.
us talking to the world.
But that's what, yeah, basically you're talking to the world. In the middle of nowhere, in the outback Australia, you're talking to the world. It accommodates all their needs.
Yes, it's wonderful.
As the project took shape, interest from the show community grew and more families enrolled their children.
We thought we were starting with 12. By the end of the first fortnight, we had 36. And it's just grown and grown.
Eventually, 2 classrooms had to be built when the enrolment grew close to 80 children. The Queensland School for Travelling Show Children was ready for its official launch at the Brisbane show in August.
It is indeed a momentous day, a day of celebration and pride.
Most of all, I'd like to acknowledge the boys and girls. And don't they look good looking, standing there, sitting there in their school uniforms, just like all the other school kids in Queensland.
Julie Shane, who pioneered the idea, was there to see the dream realised. Her children were now too old for the school, but that hardly seemed important.
To see those children as proud, that's their school, and to know that they're going to be able to reach their full potential in life and have the choice that every other Australian child has, I think that's something very special.
It's early morning at the Wagga show. The animals are already out and about, but on Sideshow Alley they're still getting ready for the day. Inside the caravans, the show families are getting ready as well.
Do you want toast on with some jams on it?
Karen Blades has her hands full getting her daughter Farah ready for school, but she has visitors as well. Lizzie is a cousin from a few caravans away, and she's come to join them for breakfast. Dempsey, another cousin, turns up soon after.
Hey, Dempsey. Good morning. Want some toast?
And Farah's grandfather, Richard Miller, is walking them all to school.
Come on. Let's go.
It's only a few hundred yards from Sideshow Alley to where the classroom is set up near the main arena. What used to be an impossible task has become a simple stroll.
We're not sending them away on a bus, or we're not sending them away down to parks to a boarding school, or and our kids know if it's 8:30 in the morning to get up, have a bath and get their uniforms on to get to school. They know they've got to be at school.
In a caravan on the other side of town, Kate and Michael Blackmore are getting ready for school as well. They're the show school teachers, the husband and wife team who follow their classroom around the country.
We basically teach a normal Monday to Friday, and then Friday afternoon we're going back to the caravan and packing things up. We're packing our classroom up, and then Saturday we travel to the next town to unpack and then be ready for Monday morning again.
When they took on the job, Michael and Kate were taking on the lifestyle of the show families as well.
After about 3 weeks we were absolutely exhausted, and it took a couple of weeks to get used to the travelling as well as the working, so it's been something that we're able to deal with now, but it has taken its toll on us as far as grey hairs and bags under our eyes.
By now, children are starting to arrive from all corners of the showground. Dave Allen is dropping off his daughter, Hannah.
Oh, look, you're on candid camera. There you go, boys.
A showman since he was 14, Dave now runs his own food wagon. He wishes the school had been there for his older children.
Our kids are, I suppose you'd call them streetwise, smart. They can get in here and count money. They know what's going on. They know how to earn $1 and they know how to save $1 too, you know. When it comes to education, mathematics, things like that, haven't had the opportunity before. So now this is going to make a hell of a difference, I feel. Yeah.
And so, while the show community is still busy erecting the rides and preparing for another day at the office, the school day begins as well.
Okay, grade ones, put away your books, take out your writing books. They're the ones with the lines on them. You used them yesterday afternoon.
Time, T-I-M. It's not O on the end, it's got that funny letter again, okay? Good boy. E makes the I say its name, okay?
Kate and Michael divide the class between them, working with the older and younger children on different projects at different levels.
That's page 97. Can you find page 97?
Most of our kids have got nothing wrong with them. There's no learning difficulties as such with the majority of the kids. The reason they've had trouble learning is that they've moved so often, and every time they go to a new town, they've had to get used to a whole new set of rules and a whole new way of doing things. The right way around.
In fact, teaching the kids how to be school children has been one of the first jobs of the new school.
Rain, rain, go away, come again another day.
From the first day that we've had these kids, they not only had to learn the curriculum or their reading and writing, they've also had to learn the routine of what a school is. Basically, the simple things like sitting on the mat, lining up, using the water fountains at the drinks, etc. But when we think back to day one, the kids have done amazing things since. The first sentence is really good. There are lots of storms in Brisbane and Australia, and you put the full stop in, that's great, okay?
You could see the results within days, and that's really rare. We're almost like the first people to deal with these kids in a consistent way, so we're able to see huge improvements just by being with them for a whole week. So it's very, very rewarding.
What colour flowers are we going to have here now, Jordan?
Good for the teachers, and it seems good for the kids as well.
Blue, okay.
I've learnt by 12 times tables up to 20. The work that I like is computers, art and science.
We've been doing handwriting, writing, all this stuff. We're doing the weather for the week.
But perhaps the best part is that the kids finally have a school where they belong. Some of the older ones can still remember the bad old days, going from school to school and suffering ridicule and abuse.
they just want to fight us and stuff, and we just tell them to go away and stuff and walk away and go back to the teachers and stuff.
Yeah, it was hard because I've hardly got any friends on the showgrounds, and when I go to new schools, I probably only make about 2 friends, and then the next day I'd leave.
For the mothers of these children, the travelling show school is nothing short of miraculous.
My little boy is 6 and he reads fluently. It's just fantastic. He's only been going to school for a year.
My son, since we've had this school, has come that far. He'd sit there and read a book. Now, he'll read the fine print in the back of the book.
But to have your kids come across here and go to school and get taught a really good education is a bonus and a half. It's really good.
But it doesn't take long for the memories of their own school days to come flooding back. And like their parents before them, they're not happy ones.
Oh, it's just dreadful. You used to be crying on the phone every week, Then when you come home, you never wanted to go back. You'd be dragged on the bus, kicking and screaming. We were never taught anything at all. We were sat up the back, and maybe there might be some of these teachers watching this. That's good. I hope they are. The ones that sat us up the back. Colour that in, they used to say. Colour that in. You were 12.
Dot to dot.
I'll do the dot to dot, and I can go out there now and earn a living, but, a lot of people... It's probably harder than it should be. Yeah, definitely.
Anne Bowen knows exactly what these women are talking about. She's now retired, but she taught in primary schools years ago and remembers when the show kids came to town.
It's horrendous, actually, because you haven't time to test them to find out what they can do. You either give them stuff that was boring or stuff that was way too hard, or, you just filling in time, basically. It was more like just babysitting.
So did they finish up in the back row, colouring in?
Oh yes, it did. Something that they could do was just colour in, and that's why they were fed up. All they wanted to do was be back at the show and working. They didn't really want to be at school at all.
The result is a show community that has struggled for generation after generation with poor literacy and a general lack of education.
It's really hard because people dead set think you're a second-class citizen, you go to do something at the bank or whatever, and they sort of go, you say, I really can't understand. They look at you and go, yeah. Where are you from, the show? Yeah.
But with the arrival of the travelling show school, that may be about to change. The classroom's sophisticated array of computers with satellite connections to access the internet has made even the parents and grandparents want to go back to school.
I'm at the stage I'd love to go back to this new school myself, because I believe I could learn a lot that I missed out on in earlier years that I couldn't attend schools myself.
There are 2 groups of parents interested in coming in for, I guess, an afternoon class or a night class. One set of parents want to learn how to use our computers, and those who haven't had the opportunity to learn to read and write, they really want to just try to learn the basics.
Well, I can't wait until the adult literacy course starts, because I'll be the first one in there. For sure. And my mum and my dad, they want to learn about computers because they're computer literate. They're older, they're 55, and they've never had nothing to do with a computer.
But that's all in the future. Right now, back at the Wagga show, the school day has come to an end. But the real day is just beginning. It's time to finally confirm what everyone has always suspected about those show kids.
You get to go on the rides for free. Oh, it's pretty good, but because we're show kids, we